Sister Marsha Speth. I'm a Sister of Providence of Saint Mary-of-the-Woods, Indiana, and I have been a sister for 50 years this year. I was born actually in a small rural town in southern Indiana, and in the 50s, and very kind of a close-knit family and community, lots of cousins. My father was Catholic and my mother was raised a Methodist. She later converted to Catholicism. So we were pretty faithful churchgoers, but not overly religious, I would say, for that time. And my father wanted me to go to school where the Sisters of Providence taught, which was the school he had attended as a child. So my brothers and sisters, and I was the oldest of 4 children, and so we trooped off to school every morning, and that was where I first met the Sisters of Providence. And they played a part certainly in my education, my early education, and they were also my teachers in high school as well. So you could say I kind of imbibed the spirit of the Sisters of Providence over the years. And while I had some that I liked a lot and some maybe less so, I really admired their spirit, their love of learning, their kind of zest for life that I just enjoyed about them, and kind of intuited that was part of their life or their spirit. Now we call that a charism, but I just think I thought of it as their spirit, their way of being, and I really. I'm sure they talked to us, the girls, about becoming sisters when I was in grade school. I don't remember any particular time, but I do remember when my 8th grade teacher, Sister, actually it was Monica, although her name in that time was Sister Patricia Ann. And I was after school, and I was helping her with a job, which I sometimes did. And she just asked me, if I had ever thought about becoming a sister. Well, I don't even remember what I said to her, but it got me started thinking. And although I wasn't ready at that time, certainly, to become a sister, not at 13, but it stayed with me, and I would go back to it, and I kept it in the back of my mind. And when it came time for me to graduate from high school, I began to feel that I needed to find out more. I needed to take that next step and find out what this attraction was that was drawing me. Of course, I also thought about being a wife and a mother, and meeting Prince Charming and all of that. So that was there also. But I always kind of had, I think from early on, an attraction to, to God, to things that were spiritual, and maybe a curiosity and a draw, a desire to be holy. I don't know how else to say it, whatever that meant to a child or a young woman. So I think that was part of why I was attracted to the Sisters of Providence. I saw this very much as a part of their life. I also wanted to give my life in service, whether I was a sister or not. So that was another part of my, I think that played a part in my draw to religious life. I knew no matter, I had to do something that would make a small contribution to making the world a better place. And I thought I could do that with a group better than I could do it by myself. And so I saw in religious life an opportunity to do that in company with others. So I think all of those things played a part in my coming to the Sisters of Providence. And once I got here, it was in the early mid-60s, and of course there was a lot of change going on. When I entered community, things were very strict, very traditional. We led a very monastic life, and we wore the full habit. And in those first, which we did continue to do in the first 5 years of my formation. At the same time, Vatican II was happening, and many of our community members had begun to be educated and coming back in a fuller way. I think they were always educated, but I think in a more sisters were being sent away to get degrees in theology and scripture and liturgy, and they came back to teach us many of these things. And I loved learning. I loved learning about the scriptures and about God's action in people's lives. So those years were very exciting and full of good energy and lots of joy, I would say. However, things began to change, and while many of the changes were very good, one of the hard things was seeing many of my peers choose to leave religious life. And so each time that would happen, I had to ask myself, why are you staying? Is this God's call to you? Or why aren't you leaving too? And when I would wrestle with those questions, I always came back to, why would I go? This is where I'm happy. I like what I'm doing. I like who I am becoming in this life, and who God is making, what God is making out of me, I hope. So each time I came back to my own answer, and while I was sorry to see some of my good friends leave and go on and to other walks of life, I had to be true to what I knew was the call in my own heart. And so I went on eventually to make my perpetual vows, and at that time, I continued to off and on have doubts, which seemed to always be a part of my life. There were moments when I would question, but as I said, I always came back to that same answer for myself, and continued to ask God to let me know God's love, that I might continue, because I think with that, I knew with that, as long as God let me know that God's love was there for me, then I could go wherever and do whatever. So that was and God was faithful to that. I think my request of God. God kept God's part of the deal. And so I did several ministries. I taught for 10 years little children and enjoyed that. I moved out of that to continue a kind of religious education in pastoral work, and loved being a part of things like the Christian initiation of adults and sacrament formation, and just working in parishes to help people, just to encourage people in their own faith life and their own relationship with God. That gave me great joy. Eventually, I was asked to serve on my leadership council, the congregation's leadership team, and did that for actually about 16 years total, on and off. And again, that was a very, it was a ministry that both challenged my gifts and affirmed my gifts. And I enjoyed working with the sisters, doing many of the same things I would try to do in the parish, and that would be encourage people in their relationship with God, and to be faithful to God's call in their lives. There were many gifts in that ministry as well. And now today I'm working in formation work with our new members, women who come to the Sisters of Providence seeking, trying to sort out, like I did, whether this was the call for them and the life for them. And so I work with them in their first year, and we do a kind of immersion experience in religious life, and help them to get a feel for what the life is like, and to listen for what God's call might be for them. I also do some spiritual direction with adults in the local area, and men and women who are seeking to grow in their relationship with God, and I really enjoyed that a lot as well. So I think at this point in my life, as I celebrate my 50th anniversary, all I can think of is how grateful I am for this call to religious life, and for what it's meant to me to be a part at this time in our history of this wonderful life, which truly has been a good fit for me. And I would just encourage other women who might be considering it to pray, yes, to seek out spiritual guides of their own, to help them sort out what their true desire is, where their attraction is, and then also to maybe take a step. Get to know sisters, spend some time with them, maybe come and spend a few days or a week or so with them, and see what the life is like, and listen to the God that lives in their heart as well. So I would just encourage women to give it some consideration.